The Cowboys' biggest problem is their run defense. It's the worst in the NFL by literally over 200 yards. It's awful. And the Cowboys' defense has many, many problems, but the front seven, their defensive line, their linebackers, they are really struggling with communication, with trust, with gap integrity. There's a lot of missed assignments. There's some bad tackling angles. And if you've ever played linebacker, then you know about gap responsibility. Basically, every defender has a job in the running game. And there are gaps that need to be covered. And a gap is like the space between an offensive lineman. You have the A gap, which is the space between the center and the two guards. You have the B gap between the guards and the tackles. You have the C gap between the tackles and the tight ends. And then outside of the tight ends is the D gap. So if you're on defense, you have a gap that you are responsible for. And you have to trust that the guy next to you is going to cover his gap. You need to communicate all of this during shifts and motions by the offensive line. A guy comes across, hey, out and out, things like that. You got to talk and communicate, and it has to be clear what your responsibility is every play on defense. And a lack of trust and a lack of communication is causing so many problems. Guys are in the wrong gaps. Guys are overcompensating. They don't trust the guy next to them. So I got to cover his gap and my gap, which is just not true at all. You got to trust that he's going to do his job. I'll do my job. There are missed assignments. It's a mess right now in Dallas. There are all kinds of problems. And basically, the Cowboys are struggling with football fundamentals, where I think their defense would have been bad regardless of what happened this year. But 100% COVID and having a really weird offseason, no preseason, that's definitely made it worse in Dallas. I'm kind of learning, I guess, that the preseason is really more important than I would have thought. It's affected defenses for sure this year. The weird offseason really hurt Dallas, and it's causing all kinds of ways for Dallas to screw up the football fundamentals. It's making their defense even worse than it would have been. But the Dallas Cowboys have to focus on communication, trusting the guy next to you, and then just, find the right assignments. You got to stop leaving gaps wide open. I watched the Eagles-Cowboys game. There's like a 17-yard run early on where Jalen Smith, a guy who I thought was a good linebacker, is just not in his gap. He's not where he should be at all. And then he takes a bad angle to get the tackle. It's just a mess. It's really, really bad. And those are the things that the Cowboys are struggling with right now. Trust, communication, and I guess gap integrity. It's the basic fundamentals of football. And that's why the Cowboys defense has been so bad against the run.